Good morning, everybody. Welcome to week number 8. What is it now? We're in the middle of November now. I'm in New York right now, as you probably remember from my own brief introduction at the beginning of the quarter. And it's getting really cold here. So I'm trying to get used to it. You guys are probably in a little better shape in terms of climate. So that's very, very good for you guys. In any case, this week we're going to be covering Chapter 15, Accounting for Investments, and that's the third and final chapter before we get to the second exam that is going to be opening up Sunday of this week, and will close on Tuesday of week number 9 next week. So in the very early part of next week. Then we will work the rest of the week in week 9 on the project. I still have to decide what project to use for this term. I may be doing something different and new, so I'm trying to figure that out. And you obviously know this, what's going to be in it by the end of this week or the beginning of next week. In any case, in terms of investments, we'll be covering the following topics. We'll be talking about debt and equity investments, how to book them, how to calculate the amounts, and how to classify them in the financial statements. You will see that learning object number 2 talks only about debt equities, which basically means investments in bonds. So in Chapter 14, you were talking about issuance or issues of bonds. You're the one selling bonds, so you're taking the perspective of the issuer or the borrower the borrower of the bonds. In this case, you're now taking the other perspective. You are accounting for the debt investor, so the bond investor in that case. For LO3, you'll be doing the same thing, but for equity investors. And then finally, you'll be talking about how to report, how to present some of these accounts in the financial statements. And LO5 is another one of those minor topics regarding performance and coming up with some ratios, which you should do, but that's the least of your time. Yes, you should spend the least of your time on that last one. A little more detail on these learning objectives. As you can see, I think a good portion of your time will be sort of understanding the terms, what they mean by certain classifications. For example, you see there under the second bullet at the bottom of the left side of the screen, right about here, classifications, and that deals with how to report an investment. Are you going to do it at the fair value, or are you going to be doing it at cost? Before that, you'll be talking about what is a short-term investment, what is a long-term investment, and at the end here, down here, you're talking about how to account for investments that are either below 20%, between 20 and 50%, and above 50%. Keep in mind that you only need to learn how to do the first two, below 20 and between 20 and 50. The 50% and above, that's covered in a different class, a more advanced class. In fact, it's actually, I think it's Advanced Accounting, Accounting 52 at Foothill. Then once you learn the basics or the terminology and the definitions, then you get into the actual accounting for those types of investments, and then also for reporting. So that's the plan for Chapter 15. A couple of points regarding this chapter. It is not as challenging as 14. 14 was by far the most challenging chapter, in my view, of all of our topics for this class. The nice thing about 15 is that it focuses purely on investments. It's pretty clear. It's not as deep as bonds, as that's one's word in the last couple of weeks. The other point I wanted to make about chapter 15 is that you have to kind of realize that there's a couple of things that you need to sort of refer to and place them in the accounting process. And so, as you might remember, and you know this because you've been doing it the whole quarter already, you do some measurements or you do some calculations, then you record them into the accounting system, and eventually you're going to report those or value those in the financial statements. So that's what this is: measurement, recording, or reporting. When the book talks about accounting methods, they are talking about the recording piece here. And when they're talking about valuation at fair value, they're talking about reporting. So I want you to make the distinction because that helps sort of place you in the right place, in the right location in the process so that you can actually think about it correctly. In any case, I hope that helps you. Don't forget all the resources that you have available to you as you work through this work this week. You have the modules, you have the overview, you have the check-in by Tuesday. You've got the lecture notes, you've got the answer keys, you have the discussion threads, which you need to post at least once in any one of those discussions, just to get you in there just once. But I hope you do more than that. And then finally, you have the reading check and the homework this week in my lab. Okay, any questions? As always, use my virtual office discussion thread or the inbox. Take care. Enjoy.